Alright, in this video, this is a quick part 6. It's not going to be a quick video, but I just want to go ahead and start talking about some things too. When you start messing with your global fonts and global colors, it's good to remember, at least when you're doing your coding, and that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to show you how to dynamically change a color based on, in this case, based on the time of the day. And what I want to do here, remember how I named all these colors, random things? I'm going to start organizing things a little bit better. So I'm going to establish a C1, that's Microsoft Word, but I'm going to let my C1 be a red. I'm going to come in here and rename these things in a second. Since C2 is already green, I'm going to let it stay C2. However, C3, I'll let it be yellow. C4, I'm going to come in here and do like a dark blue. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to rename. So this one here, up until right now, we cannot rename this global. So the only thing I can do, if I want to rename this, I need to delete that global, and I'm going to delete my yellow that I had called 9. Now this is going to cause some problems, but it's worth mentioning now as you're first getting started. If you want to rename your globals, it's a good idea to have a good name for your global and stick with it, which is what I'm not doing here, but I'm just trying to show you the mistakes that you can make. So C1, I want it to be red, and I'm putting these over here in Word so we can refer back to them. Alright, C3, I'm going to make that a yellow. Okay, and C4, I want to make it a dark blue. Now I like using short names, so I'm showing you what I do. This is what I do when I create my global variables now, but it took me a while to sit there and say, hey, maybe this is a good idea. The reason why you're going to see when we do some coding in a second. And let's see, what else? What's one more? Okay, let's do one more color. Let's do a C5. And C5 will do a light blue. Alright. Let's do, oh, I don't need to change that. Just need to call that C5. Oh, I tell you what, I lied. Let's make it like a gray. So C5 is going to be a gray. Alright, so now we have, let's make sure everything matches up. Now if you don't like the order of these, if you're OCD, you can take this like C1, if you want to put them in order, you can slide that up using your arrows once you select it. So C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. Alright, now this is the first problem it can cause. You're going to have to go back in and reapply the global so that it works as you change them inside of here. Because if I go changing things, it's not going to work on this because I don't have that new global variable established. Now, I don't want this to be yellow anymore. I want this to be a, let's make this a dark blue. So I'm going to go into my 12s. I need to change all of these anyway. So the 12, I need to go to the paint, and I want to make this a dark blue. Notice your new global colors pop up. So C4 is my dark blue. And then also, I'm sorry about the screen being smaller in this video. I want to, use Word quite a bit more here as I'm teaching you this stuff. It doesn't look too good right now, but watch what's going to happen. We're going to fix this. The 53 or 49 rather. Here, change that to my C4 as well. Okay. Now the PM, I still want it to be red, and it's red right now. However, I need to go and establish this new global variable. This is what I mean by picking good names. As long as you can remember the colors, in this case I'm using Word to help remind me, I shouldn't have a problem with this. Alright, so I got those changed. Let's change these back to greens, but let's use the new global variable C2. And alright, so I need to go to Sunday, paint, and let's make that the green one. So the green one was what? C2. Alright. And alright, let me back up. Let's change the October and the 4th. Of course, yours is probably going to be different depending on, what type of customizing you're already doing. And the 4th. So now everything's back. Here's what I want to start doing now. The square in the background, remember that square we had earlier? I'm going to make this a circle. It's not going to change too much from what you can see right now. Except, you know, now if I start making it small, it's like it's starting to shift everything up. And it's because of the way everything is scaled together. Ooh, my 4. Look at my 4. I overlooked something there. October the 4th. I bet you I made that a C5 instead of the green color that it needed to be. Yeah, I did C5, I guess. But what was this? This needs to be a green, so C2. All right, bam, fix it now. So now it's green. All right, here's what I want to do. I made this shape a circle instead. You don't have to do this, but I like it like that. It's not changing too much, just a few fine-tuning things. Okay, make that, and let's do that right about there. Now here's what we're going to do. I want this color back here to change. I want this color, this blue color in the background, I want it to be gray at night. I want it to be yellow during the day. Let's see how this looks, and let me show you how to do that. Now, the black, I'm okay with the black edge of this blue. What I want to change is the fill color of this circle. I want this blue in this circle back here to be yellow during the day, and I want it to be gray at night. So here's how we do this. We're going to start doing some coding. So under fill, I'm going to check that box, and now we're going to mess with this calculator a little bit. So this is where coding comes into play, and this is going to be the first time, if you're a beginner, that you have done an if statement with me, at least. So here's how the basic conditional works. Now I'm going to type a sentence. If it is sunlight, then I want the color to be yellow. Otherwise, I want the color to be gray. Now how do we take this sentence and do some coding? Well, here's what we got to do. So inside of our little calculator, we click on the calculator, and now I'm going to scroll down through and I'm going to show you where you can find these things. Here's the if. So we have if, and then we have a condition, comma, then, comma, else. Basically the condition, that's going to be like if it is sunlight. Then what do we want? Then we want the color to be yellow, comma, otherwise, what else? What else would happen if this thing is not true? Basically, if the condition is true, the outcome's going to be there. If the condition is false, the outcome's going to be right there. And since we are editing a color, it's going to give you a little hint to remind you, you need a valid color. Well, this is where using your global variable colors can be useful in coding. Now here's how this sentence is going to translate into a code for KLWP. You start with a dollar symbol and you say if. Alright, parentheses. Now I'm going to type it over here in Word and I'm going to copy and paste it in a moment. Now, how do we establish the whole sunlight deal? If you scroll through these things, if you look under astronomical info and then right here, a code AI is day, it's either going to be a 1 or a 0. It's going to be a 1 during daylight, a 0 if it's night. So we need this right here. But instead of me tapping that, sure, I can tap it. It's going to pop it up there. And notice the text preview. Right now it's a 1. Well, that's not a color. So I need to do a little code. I'm going to come over here and type. So if AI is day, and if it is equal to 1, so if it is sunlight, remember a 1 is during daylight, comma, we want the color to be yellow. So I need to do my yellow color here. But instead of us typing in yellow, we're going to do C3, but here's how you have to do that. You have to tell it it's a global variable. So GVC3 inside of parentheses. So if this is 1, which it is, we should have a yellow color, comma, otherwise we want it to be gray. This is where I'm putting my commas in here because, recall, underneath the if then, you have your condition, AI is day equals 1. If this is true, then we want this to happen. There's our then. Now, comma, we have to do our false. So what do we want to do if it's not 1? That means it would be 0. Well, we want it to be gray. So we have to say global variable C5. So I'm using parentheses. I have to use an additional one to close up the whole statement from way back here. Those two there close each other up. And then we got to use a dollar symbol to close in our formula. So we are going to get color preferences. If this thing is true, if it is daylight, we should get the global variable C3, which was yellow. Otherwise, we should get the C5. So let me copy and paste that. And I don't want to use that stuff, but I do want to use that code from Microsoft Word. Bam. So look, we're getting a color code up here. Instead of you having to memorize this crazy stuff, that's why it's good to make global variables for colors. Now it's good to type these up, write them down somewhere so you don't forget what's what. And now if I check this, bam, check it out. See, we do have a yellow back here because this code is returning this color. If isDay is equal to 1, it's going to return whatever color we have for C3. If it's not 1, it's going to return a C5. Now I can't show you what's going to happen if it becomes night because we're in daylight right now. However, what I will show you is this. Since it is day, since it is equal to 1, it's going to return C3. Now if I were to go back into my root and go to my globals, and if I were to change my C3, suppose I didn't want it to be yellow, suppose I wanted it to be like a orangish color, something like that. If I tap that, it's going to change that because this code is going to always return C3. And as you can see here, hopefully by using global variables with short names like I did here, just remembering what each one represents, it's going to be much easier to type those things in instead of you saying yellow, Y-E-L-L-O-W, because later on down the road, trust me, you'll want to be speeding through this a little bit quicker. And by using short global variable names, that will help out. Now if it was nighttime, it's going to return C5. Now C5 is this gray color. But, there we have that. But I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to put this back on a yellow. But now, as we see this, maybe this isn't as eye-appealing as we thought it would be. It doesn't look too bad. Maybe if this green was a little bit darker, C2. Remember how we went back and established C2 for all these things? So if I make that a slightly darker green, perhaps, maybe that might help. I don't know. Let's see. It's not too bad. But you can do some tweaking here. Again, we can make that yellow. This is what we could do as well. We could go back into our circle. Remember, I changed my square to a circle. If I change the gradient and I make it not as wide, see that? What about the offset? What's that going to do? Woo. Something like that. So this little piece right here will always be whatever C3 is. Unless it becomes nighttime, it becomes C5, all because of that code. And you will use if statements quite a bit. And it's important to remember to start off with the if, use your parentheses correctly, and remember you have a condition. This is what you're going to get if it's true. This is what you're going to get if it's false. Now, not only will we use this with colors, you can use it with sizing certain things. It's so many crazy things you can do with it. But this is going to dynamically change based on the time of the day. And now looking at this a little bit more, suppose you don't like the gradient that we established back in part 5. I know I still have this title part 4 up here in my Word document, but I'm just, going off from what I finished up with a while ago. What we can always do, we can always go back and we can take the gradients off. Or you can even do this. So let me go to 1249. Okay, so the 12, well now it's 115. So my text for 1, I know it says 12 here right now. But if I go to FX, remember we did put a vertical gradient on that? You can put a global variable on this as well. For example, right now it's black. That's why you see the bottom of this thing being rather dark. You can drag this thing around. Look, check that out. You can even change it like that. You can change it like that. Where was it at? Like 50? But you can apply a global variable to the black part of the gradient, and suppose you want it to be blue and green. So if we go tap on our global variable, C2, now you have the blue and the green. So fast forward a little bit, I'm going to go edit a few more things. The 16, I'm going to do it the same thing as well. I'm going to apply a global variable to my vertical gradient and a C2. Now watch this. I'm going to come down here to these and I'm going to do the blue, and you'll see how it's going to start maybe looking a little bit better. Let's find out. Let me go back to Sunday. I'll go to paint. I'm not going to change that. I'm going to change this one to the blue. So the blue was the C4. Hopefully you can realize how you can change things a lot quicker now, and you're going to see something else right here in a moment as well too. Let me fix October and let me fix the 4th. Whoops. What did I do? C4. Yep. And backing up one more to the 4th. Alright. Now, check that out. See, the 12, the Sunday, everything kind of pops better with that yellow back there. Remember, that yellow will turn, whatever I have C5, it'll turn gray when it becomes nighttime. Let me save, so just in case the app locks up on me, I won't lose any of that stuff. But again, watch this. So yeah, I had to go in and change multiple items yet again. But look, if we go to globals and we change our blue and our green. Now blue was C4, green was C2. So let's go change this green. Let's make it back kind of like that bright green that we had earlier. I don't know if you noticed, but it is a brighter green. Heck, if I go in here and change it to something altogether, whatever C2 is, look, see, now we have the pinkish effect, I guess you could say. If I go change my C4, which was the dark blue is what you see up here and what you see down here. If I make that dark blue like a red, see, everything's changing on the fly because we have established all these C1, C2, C3, C4, C5s. We've put them where we need to put them. And as you can see now, this has definitely changed quite a bit. What I'm starting to think now, this looks good for daylight, maybe change the PM, but you can go apply this same conditional statement to your gradient colors to make those change too. So like right here, maybe this looks good for a daylight type of thing, but you could go back and do a C5 thing to change the gradients and have them change at nighttime. The possibilities are limitless, as you can see here. But I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and change this back to what I had, so when I continue the rest of this series, I'll still have these same colors saved. So C4, let me put that back on a dark blue, just for the sake of the videos. And there we have it, saving it, going back home, and there we go. So a few more things on global variables. Be smart when you name your global variables, and now you have seen your first little code that you can use to help things dynamically change, in this case based on daylight or nighttime. And just to show you what I was just talking about, I have gone back and applied coding to the fill color for each text and number. I also applied a coding to the gradient for each piece. Kind of like what we did back here for the codings of this little circle back here. And basically what I did is this. Let's look at, notice how this up here is yellow, this here is red. This is red, this is yellow. And what I did was I said, okay, for my fill color, for these top pieces at least, the 205 that you see, I said, okay, if it is daylight, I want to return a yellow color. If it's not, I want to return a gray color. I'm going to show you how it changes right here in a second, but then I had to go back and do the same thing for my gradient. So for the gradient, you have to establish a global variable. And I'll tell you what, let me show you. I did that. I'll just go to the 2 o'clock. But basically I had to go back and do this for everything. And now that we've talked about how to put these in, it takes a little bit of time, but it's a one-time thing and it's going to dynamically change. So looking at the 2, under paint, I have a code set up now. And the way you'll do that is, originally probably what you had is, just a global font set up. You probably have this global icon. Well, the way to get rid of that is to tap on it, click on globe, and then tap on it and click code. And then, I put my code in. And it's one of these 2 codes here. So what I have there, and then if I go over to FX, I also have a code put in there. And basically what I'm doing with that one is that code that you see right there. When I come down to my bottom stack, this one down here, I reversed everything. I made this stuff the fill color, that way you'll see it at the top. And then I made this stuff here my gradient color. Notice how we have yellow, red, and then we have red, yellow. And then also I went back and did some tweaking too. I kept the radial gradient on this, and I also made this 4 right here a radial gradient as well. But we're just about done with this thing. I'm ready to move on to something new. And before I do that, I'm going to do one last piece. I don't want to change anything else about this font-wise. So I'm going to come down here to my bottom stack, and I'm going to space this October and this Sunday a little bit. So let me click on October. That's going to be October 4th, this vertical stack group. And let me apply some left padding. And as you can see, it's going to space it out. Just to get something that looks a little bit more evenly spaced. But from here, play around with these things. The next video that I create, we're going to be working on another piece. This is like our date and time. I'd say next we can work on our weather. That'll be the next part of this series. But you want to take all these things that you've learned about here, your global fonts, the coding here. We're going to be doing some of this same type of coding, perhaps, with our weather. And I'd say have a Word document or something, where you have some of these things saved so you can refer back to them. Because in part 2, when we add a new piece, we're going to be doing some of the same stuff, but there will be new stuff as well. And that is it for this video. Actually, it's not. Let me save this and let me show you what happens. All that stuff, all these codings that I did to every single piece. Let me go back to home and let me change the time real quick. So, date and time. Hopefully the program will not close. Sometimes it will close when I do this. Alright, so I'm going to set my time and I'm going to change it to AM. So now it's going to be, the is day is not going to be 1. The is day is going to be 0. So I've changed that, and now check it out. See how different that looks? But it's all because of us establishing these global colors and typing these codes in to each part of those pieces that we had inside of that one overlap group. And that is it for this video. I hope it helped.